Now let's take you back to the failed Doha talks held among OPEC and non-OPEC members in Qatar. Iran's refusal to join in the production cut led to a stalemate at the end of the meeting.
A deal to freeze oil output by OPEC and non-OPEC producers fell apart on Sunday after Saudi Arabia demanded that Iran join in despite calls on Riyadh to save the agreement and help prop up crude prices.
But for today, recognizing the fact that fundamentals changed from the first meeting, we debated the freeze from all aspects and what could that result. And the meeting concluded that we all need time for further consultation, and from now till June meeting in OPEC, all participating countries will consult among themselves and with others.
The development will revive oil industry fears that major producers are embarking again on a battle for market share, especially after Riyadh threatened to raise output steeply if no freeze deal were reached.
The pressure we were subjected to is less as fundamentals are improving now, and oil is heading the right direction. How long it will balance itself, we are yet to see, but it is certainly in the right direction.
Iran is pledging to ramp up production following the lifting of Western sanctions in January, making a compromise with Riyadh almost impossible as the two fight proxy wars in Yemen and Syria. After 5 hours of fierce debate about the wording of a communique, including between Saudi Arabia and Russia, delegates and ministers announced no deal had been reached. Several OPEC sources said if Iran agreed to join the freeze at the next OPEC meeting on June 2nd, talks with non-OPEC producers could resume. Russian Oil Minister Alexander Novak called the Saudi demand unreasonable and said he was disappointed as he had come to Doha under the impression that all sides would sign the deal instead of debating it. Russia is a key ally of Iran and has been defending Tehran's right to raise output post-sanctions while also supporting the Islamic Republic in many of its conflicts with Riyadh.
And key countries in the International Monetary Fund have pledged to pursue growth-friendly policies to kickstart the slowing world economy. The IMF steering committee, made up of 25 of the world's largest economies, said the global outlook was fraught because of weak trade and a series of risks, including a UK exit from the EU.
Subject was
the finance leaders from the Group of 20 leading economies on Friday reiterated their commitment to use all policy tools, including monetary, fiscal, and structural instruments, to foster confidence and boost economic growth. The G-20 finance ministers and central bank governors in a communique say downside risks and uncertainties to the global outlook persist against the backdrop of continued financial volatility, challenges faced by commodity exporters, and low inflation. The International Monetary Fund lowered its forecast for global growth in 2016 down to 3.2%, saying that the global economy grows at a sluggish pace that leaves the world economy more exposed to risks. The G20 finance ministers and central bank governors highlighted the risks of a potential UK exit, also known as Brexit, from the European Union, geopolitical conflict, terrorism, refugee flows, and the shock of a potential UK exit from the European Union also complicate the global economic environment. The heads of the World Bank and the IMF also emphasized that Brexit is an uncertainty and one of the serious downside risks of the British and world economies. They also reiterated their commitment to refraining from using exchange rates for competitive advantage. The G20 members also moved a step forward, vowing to curb tax evasion and money laundering. They called on relevant countries, including all financial centers and jurisdictions, to commit to implementing the standard on automatic exchange of information by 2017 or 2018.
And companies interested in buying Yahoo are expected to have their bids today. As many as 40 companies are reported to be interested in the California-based company. These include Verizon Communications. The telecommunications giant expressed interest in Yahoo's internet business 2 months before CEO Marissa Mayer and Chairman Maynard Webb made it official that the company would entertain offers for its core business, including Yahoo Mail, Yahoo Sports, Yahoo Finance, and Tumblr. Most recently, the parent of UK's national newspaper, the Daily Mail and General Trust said that it had joined the bidding process. Other companies reportedly interested include AT&T, Alibaba, Google, SoftBank, and Time Incorporated. And just over 6% of the S&P 500 has reported earnings, and most companies have beat expectations in the U.S. Jill Malandrino, business correspondent in New York, is joined by Phil Davis to discuss potential earnings trends for the first quarter.
Earnings season is fully underway with heavyweights such as IBM, Netflix, Goldman Sachs, Caterpillar reporting next week. Phil, what are your expectations for first quarter earnings? Because expectations have been really quite low when you look at consensus estimates.
My expectations are, everybody. The thing is, they set expectations so amazingly low for this quarter's earnings that it's going to be very, very hard for anybody not to beat it. It's like when you're playing limbo and they have the bar like super high and the kids just walk under it. That's kind of what this is like at the moment. It's so simple for the companies to get ahead of their earnings. And people just look at whether somebody beats or not. They don't think about the fact that, they're down 40% from last year, but they beat. So I think that's going to help earnings as far as, nobody's going to get shocked by earnings. But after these earnings start coming out and we start looking at the trends and people start understanding that we're way lower than last year, companies are not projecting having positive 2016s compared to 2015s. That's when I think sentiment's going to start shifting. So sometime at the beginning of May, basically, selling may go away. Sometime at the beginning of May, sentiment's probably going to shift to the downside for the year.
Right. Well, that's exactly what we saw with JP Morgan earnings last week, where they beat on the top and bottom line. However, it was not comparable, not even close to 2015. So for the first quarter, what secular trends are you looking at? What do you want to be involved with, and what do you want to stay away from?
You want to stay away from anybody who's in the PC business, except for Apple, probably, because the numbers internationally of computer sales are just going down the tubes. We saw that in Micron, Intel. Everybody's putting out warnings that the chip sales aren't there. And if nobody's buying chips, nobody's buying the actual machines either. So that's a given. Look, smartphones are killing it. Phones and pads and things like that are just killing that market. So that's a painful area to be in. Other things that are going to be bad is going to be anybody who does a lot of business overseas. Any American company doing a lot of business overseas, a strong dollar makes the money that they collect overseas weaker, and therefore is not as good for their earnings also. Meanwhile, overseas they're paying more, and at home now wages are rising. That's also not a good thing for American profits.
Right. Well, it's interesting because even though you want to stay away from tech to a certain extent, you like IBM.
Well, IBM was our runner-up for the stock of the year. Now, IBM at the moment, though, I forgot. I hate to say I don't know what their stock price is at this moment, but when we liked them, they were down in the doldrums. They're 151 now. We liked them at 120.
Right.
So I like IBM, but I think they're kind of in line with where they should be at the moment. Longer term, definitely a $200 stock, though. So, hey, 30% upside from here is not bad.
I'll take it. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Phil. For Channels TV in New York, I'm Jill Malandrino.
Many thanks, Jill. Now, a number of Japanese manufacturers have suspended operations after two powerful earthquakes hit Kumamoto in southwestern Japan. Electronics giant Sony, as well as automakers Honda and Toyota, cited damage at their plants. The quakes killed at least 41 people and have caused severe destruction to buildings and infrastructure. The suspensions in Kumamoto, a manufacturing hub, could cause supply chain disruptions. Chipmaker Renesas Electronics also said there had been damage to some equipment at its Kumamoto plant, which produces microcontroller chips for cars. When we come back, we'll take you through the numbers from the FMDQ OTC markets. We'll be right back.